Hey everybody, our topic is a hot topic. So we're doing a hot topic, and it's a hot topic because it won't sound that way based on my initial title, which is what I love about younger generations. That doesn't sound like a hot topic, right? But trust me, we're gonna get there. So just bear with me here, and we're gonna talk quite a bit about what I love about younger generations and why I love it, and why, in fact, I think this could be a hot topic. I always like to offer context whenever I have topics, let alone hot topics, because I always want to acknowledge that it is my personal perspective. It's my personal experience. I think when it comes to younger generations and what I refer to as I'm a Gen Xer myself, and I'm on the younger side of the Gen Xers, so a little bit of a cusper, a couple years more, and I would have fallen into the millennial category. But not only I think from an age perspective, but I really, from a younger generation, had two major outlets where I had awesome opportunities to interact with younger generations. One was professionally. So from the early part of my career, and we'll call it 20 plus years at this point, but 20 plus years of my career, my entire career, I've had the honor of working with young people, the honor of mentoring and developing and training young people from the time they were doing internships all the way through the early years in their career until they became, more experienced professionals. So it's one part. The other part that I've had a lot of experience and exposure is in my youth ministry days. So for those of you that might know this already, in addition to my corporate life, my other kind of like side gig, if you would call it, is a huge passion in life for me, which was working as a high school youth minister. I also coached basketball, all 5'3" of me, coached elementary, middle school, and high school basketball for girls. In addition to that, I was a referee for a handful of years. So I've just always had this belief system, and a lot of this comes back to like my own experience, that when I had so many adults lifting me up when I was in middle school and high school and like believing in me and empowering me, and they made such a huge impact in my life that was something I just had to pay it forward. And among many things, of course, that my parents taught me was also this community of adults that I had around me that just really believed in me, like really encouraged me. And a lot of that came from the experience I had in my church's youth ministry that I got to experience. It was really leadership focused. So I got early on leadership training starting actually in 7th grade, all the way through till I got into high school and then of course college. And so I just wanted to pay that forward. So that was always something. I had this belief that, in my opinion, the most powerful people on the planet are teenagers, actually, specifically, because they don't do it as a resume builder. They do it because it's just something they believe in. They do it because they're passionate about it, and not because they're making a paycheck off of it, right? So it's just, I think it's just so pure and real, and it's just something a lot of my perspective comes from that. So I'll name it what it is, and I'll give you guys some context as to why I have so many positive opinions about millennial generations and younger. So talking professionally, let me talk a little bit about that. For me, in my experience, I saw it as a big benefit that most of the young people that I've hired, trained, that developed and mentored have come in with the ability to do things smarter. And to me, and I'll say it in a funny way because I think older generations will appreciate this, if I have to choose between smarter and easy or dumb and hard, guess what, folks? I'm going with smarter and easy. And I didn't see it as a negative thing to have a young professional be assigned a job or a task that they were able to utilize technology to figure out a way to do something in half the time and then get it done. One of the things I talked to my dad about a lot of things in life, because he's hands down probably the man I respect the most in life itself. But one of the conversations that we had was about this, was about younger people and how I preferred a younger professional to do something smarter and take less time. And his perspective was, well, then they should be coming back and asking for more work. And I said, okay, fair enough. Obviously they need to communicate if they've been able to finish something. But I also don't think that we create a punishment system where just because they were able to get it done faster is like, okay, well then I'm going to give you double the workload. I don't necessarily agree with that mentality, to the point that when I was discussing this with my dad, I said, it sounds to me like you just value the concept of hard work over doing something smarter and more efficient. And he's like, well, I guess it just comes down to, we didn't have the technology that you guys have right now, so it just wasn't even an option. I was like, okay, good point. But again, I think for me, my outlook has always been, because I've always been a technology nerd. I get that from my dad. He was one of the first ever computer analysts hired to Social Security. So I didn't grow up with tech fear. I had it, internet actually didn't come out till I was a junior in high school. But I'm a tech nerd. I'm an efficiency freak. I love any opportunity to do things better and faster without ever sacrificing any quality, right? So love that about young people. I love the fact that they, like most millennials, they don't know life without technology. They don't know life without social media in many ways. And I actually, for me, especially as somebody who runs a remote working business, those are characteristics for me that are really meaningful skill sets. So again, to me, it's like positive. And then even when it comes to openness. So this is another characteristic of young people that I love. In general, and I know that this is a generalization, so don't kill me here, but in general, I would say that my personal experience with younger people is they are not caught up into old school formal stigma, okay? They aren't caught up into appearances the way that older generations are. They're not caught up into thinking that something like skin color or religion or economic class has anything to do with a person's ability to connect with another human being. They remain open-minded to learning about other people, other cultures, other people's experiences. They're more emotionally in touch. I find that younger generations have much higher emotional IQs. And not meaning like, and again, this to me is like a huge, if you go back to another one of my videos, I talked about emotional accuracy. Older generations equate being emotional as a negative thing or being weak even. I don't see it that way. I see someone who's emotional, as long as you're emotionally accurate, is a huge strength. It's a huge ability to relate and connect to other people and even anticipate what people will do in a conversation and how to prepare yourself, especially if it's a conflict, how to interact with people in any situation or any environment. When you're emotionally accurate and you're emotional, period, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to do, not a sign of weakness. So in general, for me, I really struggle, and this is where we're going to turn the table here and talk about it like a hot topic. I really struggle to understand the horrible negative rants that are coming from older Gen Xers through boomers. I really struggle with this. I struggle with hearing nasty things in conversations face to face and of course on social media coming from older generations, calling younger people weak, snowflakes, entitled, lazy. I mean, we've heard them all, guys, right? Like, especially for my young people here, y'all have heard it. Nobody's deaf to these things that are being said about young people. The smirks and the side looks like, oh, of course they didn't do what they're supposed to do because they're lazy or entitled or they're not accountable. Just terrible, terrible things coming out of the mouths of the people who gave birth to them. Let's be clear about this, folks. And this is the part that drives me insane. These older Gen Xers and our younger boomers are in fact the parents to the millennials and younger generation. And yet they're the ones that are so loud and candidly obnoxious about saying horrible things about younger generations in a very accusatory, broad stroke kind of way. Well, except for one way. And let me point that one way out. Oh, unless it's their child. And the irony is, the people who are the loudest are often the ones who have the exact children who are what they're complaining about. But if you talk to them about their kid and you tell them about their kid and their kid is exactly what everybody's complaining about, oh my gosh, you better get prepared for the full-blown defensive attack that's going to come from those parents, because they don't want to acknowledge that they've, in fact, literally physically created the very person that they're so loud and obnoxious about complaining about. So there's a couple topics around this. So we've gone into hot topic land, right? So in many ways, I have the opposite opinion on these three things. So the three topics would be this concept of weakness, which I've pretty much addressed already with emotional IQ. I have a different outlook on that. But we also talked about lack of pain tolerance. So discomfort, driving decisions in their life based on discomfort. And then the other one would be work ethic. Okay, so these are the things that the three topics that I tend to hear about the most when older generations are on a rant about younger generations, okay? First of all, older folks, get ready, because you ain't gonna like this. I feel, and this is again my perspective, that the reason that younger generations drive so many decisions they make based on, well, that's uncomfortable, so I don't want to do it, or God forbid it's causing pain, and I'm talking about work and professionally. And then also hand in hand with that is an overall lack of work ethic, meaning like not having a desire. I mean, and by the way, Gen Xers that are out there, my generation is completely at fault for being total workaholics. So that's not a good thing. So let's start there, okay? So, but bottom line is the lack of pain tolerance and also a lack of work ethic to kind of grind, as my younger friends will like to use that word, but the lack of desire to grind in their 20s when they don't have kids. I hate to say it, guys. I hate to say it, parents. But parents, if you're looking for someone to blame, take a hard look in the mirror. And here's why. Our older Gen Xer parents, younger baby boomer parents, are super guilty of being snowplow parents and being helicopter parents. And what I mean by those horrible titles that are out there, and of course, people feel very comfortable name calling until they're the ones being name called, is because of the sheltering that's happened. And sheltering happens for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes people shelter their children because of their own experience, and other people shelter their kids because maybe they're divorced and they feel they need to overcompensate. But there's a lot of reasons why parents shelter and over shelter their kids. But understand, if you are the parent who tells your high school or college student, I don't want you to work, Chloe, because I want you to focus on your studies. Or, oh, honey, I'm so sorry that you feel tired from playing on this particular sports team. It's okay to quit. Or, oh, let me pay you an allowance for you participating and doing having household responsibilities in a house that you live in, a room that you dirty, plates that you eat off of, floors that you make dirty. Let me pay you an allowance for that. Or, God forbid, let me just pay for, anything that you want. A great example of this is in my previous house. I lived in this neighborhood. Our houses were all pretty close together. When I was growing up, if I lived in a neighborhood like that, which I didn't, I would have just killed for the opportunity to shovel driveways in the winter, to rake leaves in the fall. I would have been all over the place in terms of trying to babysit. This would have all been stuff that I would have elected to do in middle school, because I would have wanted to earn my own money so that I could go and buy the things that I wanted to do, because my parents taught me that if I wanted something in life beyond my basic needs, I was going to have to work for it. So in my neighborhood, I lived there, guys, 7 years. I lived in this house that was prime time snow shoveling opportunity, raking leaves opportunity. And it took 7 years before I had 2 kids, brothers, who came to our front door after a snowstorm and asked if they could shovel our driveway. And I was so complimentary. I said, absolutely, we'd love that. By the way, Tony typically does that. We didn't need them to, but I was just thrilled by their motivation. And I was like, so what are you doing it for? And they said, oh, we want to get a new gaming system. And I go, guys, I got to tell you, I am so shocked that nobody, I know there's other kids in the neighborhood. How come nobody else comes and does this kind of stuff? And they go, oh, everybody we know, their parents just give it to them. Like, nobody has to earn this. Like, my mom can't afford to buy us a gaming system, so we're going to work for it and buy it ourselves. And I was like, good for you. But guys, just let's put this in perspective. 10 years I lived in this house, I had one occurrence of this happening. And not to mention, I've had countless situations where my friends, Tony's friends, especially Indian families, guys, I'm gonna call you out right now. Indians and Asian Americans in general, you guys know better than to let your kids get away with not working. And this is a situation where I've said to Tony, hey, we need a babysitter. Can you reach out to so-and-so and ask if their 15-year-old daughter is interested in coming and watching our kids? And the parents are like, they don't want to work. They just want to stay home and play video games. I'm like, oh, how sweet. You give options to your kids. My children will never have options like that. But guys, again, I just go back to the original point. Whatever nasty things older Gen Xers, or even Gen Xers my age, or boomers have to say about younger generations, y'all better take a hard look in the mirror and ask yourselves, how much over sheltering did you do? How much bailing out did you do? How many times did your kids know it didn't really matter if they made bad decisions because you were going to bail them out? How many times did you tell your kids that they shouldn't work for money and for things that they wanted in life? How many times did you not hold them accountable to commitments that they made? How many times did you step in and intervene when they're in high school and college and there's something going on in the school and they should be handling it and learning how to deal with conflict on their own, but you instead decided to intervene and get involved with their teachers or administration and not teach them what it means to handle conflict on their own? How many times have you done that? Because before you judge, you better take a hard look in the mirror about how you contributed to this very problem that you're very vocal about and complaining about out there. It's super annoying to me. It's annoying to a lot of people who actually have positive opinions of younger generations. And it's kind of despicable, to be honest with you. And I think it's time that we focus, especially now in recovery and coming out of this pandemic, that we start focusing on lifting each other up. We start focusing on controlling ourselves instead of trying to control other people. Don't try to control other people, what they do or say. Don't get mad about what other people are doing. Don't have opinions even about other people's lifestyle choices or who they love or who they want to marry. Don't worry about that. It doesn't affect you. Go work on you. Go change you. Go control yourself. Have accountability for the words that you use and the actions that you have and the behaviors you have. And make sure that it's something that's positive, contributing to the world, instead of something negative and stirring up unnecessary problems and drama. Because guess what, folks? I'm over it. And the younger people are over it. And we are about to embark in a very special time in history. People want to know why right now our government is a disaster? I'll be candid. Look at the age of Congress. Look at the age of most of our government leadership. Folks don't live forever. Okay? Folks do pass on. I'm going through a really hard time in my life right now where my parents' generation, I'm just dealing with a lot of loss and a lot of illness. And the reality is that the reins will have to be handed off. And those reins are either going to be handed off willingly as mentors and positive supports to younger generations, or they're going to be stripped away from you in your deathbed. It's going to happen one way or the other. So you have to decide how you want your legacy to be respected. Do you want it to be looked at as a way that was tyrannical and closed-minded and obsessed with tradition? Or do you want to be looked at as positive mentors that helped move in an evolutionary way towards something that's a better future? Because let me tell you what, guys, this world that we've been living in and the mentality and the racism and the closed-mindedness that's existed here for the last, I mean, really since the beginning of this country, certainly, but it's become culturalized here in the last, especially 50, 60 years. This is not the best that it gets. There's so much better out there. There's so much better life to be had. There's a way for us to actually live in peace and harmony together where we celebrate differences. And the only way to do that is if from one generation to the next, we usher it in a way that feels motivating and encouraging, not through putting people down and name calling and categorizing and separation. So I hope that this hot topic resounds in people. I'm okay if people hear this and they don't like it. I'm okay if you feel offended because I might be talking about you. You might be that helicopter parent. You might be that snowplow parent. You might be that person who is out on social media and in conversations ranting and raving and tearing down younger people. I'm okay if you're offended. I hope that what you can hear from me is there's an opportunity in this to contribute something good to foster in the next generation of leadership in this country and on this planet. I hope you take that away. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. And thank you for the comments that have come in. I want to again ask you guys, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up or give me a thumbs down too. Leave comments in the comments section. Do all the things that help promote people like myself who are trying to bring something positive to the YouTube universe and to the planet as a whole. So again, thank you guys for your time and have an amazing rest of your day and weekend.